Andrew was interested in Noah's physical recovery and progress since his return from the hospital. "How have you been feeling since the hospital?" Tate responded in the same register. "Better," he said. And when Andrew held the silence a little longer looking for fracture points, Tate only adjusted his posture slightly, ran his hand through his hair again, and added almost lightly, "I just needed rest." That was the most he would allow. The seizure itself, the catatonia, the ER admission, all of it was treated as if it belonged to a version of him that no longer existed and therefore did not require acknowledgement from the current one. Not repressed in an obvious way, more like disconnected, and what unsettled Andrew wasn't just the lack of processing. It was the stability of the presentation afterward. Because most people who compartmentalize trauma still leak somewhere: sleep disturbance, irritability, intrusive recall, avoidance behaviors that betray the pressure underneath. Tate didn't leak, he sealed. Function returned quickly, almost too quickly, as if the system had decided that continuity mattered more than integration. He ate normally, slept when he chose to, engaged socially in a way that looked intact from the outside. But whenever the subject approached the edge of that sealed area, he simply stepped away from it without escalation, as if it wasn't a boundary he was defending, but a door that no longer existed. Every time Talia or Andrew tried to bring it back into conversation, the result was the same subtle deflection. Tate would adjust his hair and change the topic. "I'm fine." Not convincing, not emotional, just closed. 1 month after Terrence, Tate Blue's father, had died, the world still felt wrong. Not dramatically wrong, not in the cinematic way Noah used to imagine grief would feel. There had been no thunderstorms at the funeral, no grand revelations, no miraculous healing afterward. Just an awful quietness that settled into every room of the White House like dust no one could clean away. Terrence's absence lingered everywhere, in untouched coffee cups, in unfinished conversations, in the way Tate had stopped answering texts for days at a time, in the way Talia smiled too quickly now, like she was trying to hold everyone together with sheer force of will. That was how Noah ended up attending a silent charity auction on a rainy Friday evening despite wanting absolutely nothing to do with crowds, wealthy strangers, or performative philanthropy. Talia had insisted, "You need to leave the Rambler where you hold yourself up, mourning Terrence, before you become part of the furniture," she had told him while adjusting the diamond earrings she barely seemed interested in wearing. Noah had muttered something about preferring furniture to people. Still, he came. The auction occupied 3 lavish floors of the Beaumont Art Conservatory, a historic building filled with vaulted ceilings, marble staircases, and enough money to make Noah mildly nauseous. Everything glowed gold beneath the chandeliers. Classical music floated softly through hidden speakers while elegantly dressed guests drifted from exhibit to exhibit, carrying champagne flutes and fake humility. The silent auction itself displayed an absurd collection of wealth disguised as culture. Paintings in gilded frames, rare jewelry, vintage wine collections, private travel experiences, sculptures that looked either priceless or accidentally broken. Noah wandered away from Talia within minutes. She was quickly intercepted by a pair of politicians and some museum donor wearing enough pearls to sink a ship, leaving Noah blessedly alone. He moved slowly through the gallery halls, hands tucked into the pockets of his dark suit jacket, trying not to think too hard about anything. Unfortunately, thinking was all he had been doing lately. Tate barely slept anymore. Talia carried herself like she was fine, which somehow made Noah more worried, and Terrence was dead. Noah swallowed hard and forced his thoughts elsewhere. He paused near an 18th-century marble statue positioned beneath warm spotlighting. It depicted some Greek mythological figure that Noah didn't recognize, partially draped in carved stone fabric that looked impossibly soft despite being marble. That part fascinated him. How something so cold could be sculpted into looking alive. Noah tilted his head slightly, studying the detailing along the statue's hands. Then his eyes shifted, and immediately locked onto someone across the room. Wayne Vaughn. Noah's stomach dropped so suddenly it almost hurt. Wayne stood near one of the photography displays dressed in an expensive black suit, one hand resting loosely in his pocket while he stared intently at a massive black-and-white photograph of a naked woman reclining across a velvet chaise lounge. Of course he is, Noah thought immediately. The irritation came instinctively. Wayne looked different from how Noah remembered, more polished somehow. His hair was shorter, neatly styled away from his face, and the sharp angles of his jaw seemed even more pronounced beneath the gallery lighting. But Noah recognized him instantly. Unfortunately, the last few times they had seen each other had ended in shouting, resentment, and Tate punching Wayne directly in the face hard enough to split his lip. The memory alone made Noah tense. Wayne still hadn't noticed him. Good. Excellent. Perfect. Noah immediately began backing away. Slowly at first. Then faster. Every instinct in his body screamed leave now before eye contact happens, because if Wayne saw him there would be a conversation, and Noah absolutely did not have the emotional stability for that tonight. He turned slightly, retreating through the crowd while trying not to draw attention to himself, which was exactly why disaster struck almost instantly. His shoulder brushed sharply against someone beside him. A startled gasp rang out. Champagne splashed everywhere. Oh my God! Noah spun around in horror. A glamorous older socialite in a silver gown stared down at herself as pale champagne dripped down the front of her dress and onto the marble floor. The crowd nearby collectively winced. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Noah blurted immediately. The woman held her empty flute away from her body as it had personally betrayed her. This is couture, she said in complete devastation. I don't know, but I'm really sorry. You walked directly into me. I was backing up. Why were you walking backwards? That's honestly a fantastic question. A nearby waiter hurried over with napkins while another guest unsuccessfully attempted not to stare. The commotion echoed louder than Noah wanted. Far louder. Which meant Wayne looked up. Noah physically felt the exact moment recognition hit. Their eyes met across the room. And damn it. Wayne blinked once in surprise before excusing himself from the photography display and walking directly toward him. Noah considered fleeing. Briefly. Unfortunately, the champagne disaster had trapped him socially. The socialite was still muttering about silk damage when Wayne finally reached them. Up close, Wayne looked exhausted in a way expensive clothing couldn't hide. Not tired physically. Just worn thin around the edges. Noah, Wayne said carefully. Noah immediately bristled. Wayne. The socialite glanced suspiciously between them before finally accepting a cloth napkin from the waiter with a dramatic sigh. Young men are disasters, she announced before walking away. Neither Noah nor Wayne responded. For one painfully awkward second, they simply stared at each other while soft piano music drifted through the gallery around them. Wayne broke first. I didn't think you'd come to something like this. I didn't want to. Then why did you? Talia threatened me emotionally. Wayne snorted unexpectedly. Did she threaten to fuck you? The sound caught Noah off guard. It was strange hearing Wayne laugh after everything. Strange and irritatingly familiar. Wayne glanced toward the statue Noah had been studying earlier. You still pretending to understand art? I understand art. You once called abstract expressionism money laundering for emotions. That was an accurate statement. Wayne smiled faintly despite himself. Noah hated that it softened him instantly. The tension between them remained thick regardless. Wayne studied Noah carefully for a moment before speaking again, quieter this time. How have you been? Noah almost laughed. What kind of question was that? Terrence was dead. Tate was unraveling. Everything hurt. But instead Noah shrugged stiffly. Fine. Wayne gave him a look that clearly said liar. Neither addressed it. A server passed carrying champagne between them. Noah grabbed one immediately despite not wanting alcohol earlier. Wayne noticed. I heard the bastard died, Wayne smirked. I bet the perv you slept with for years held an orgy or danced on his father's grave the moment Terrence was barely cold. So, Noah said quickly, trying to change the topic, still collecting nude photography. Wayne glanced back toward the framed black and white portrait and smirked slightly. It's a good composition, I fucked the model. Of course you did, it has nipples, Wayne. Wayne laughed again, quieter this time. For one dangerous second, the conversation almost felt normal. Then Tate's name entered the silence without either of them saying it aloud. It simply arrived. How's my rich fuckboy doing? Wayne smiled. Fine, Noah sniffled. Wayne's expression dimmed slightly. Noah noticed immediately. And suddenly the air between them became heavier again. Wayne's gaze drifted slowly over Noah then. Not casually. Deliberately. It started at Noah's face before lowering with lazy precision down the line of his throat, the dark tailored suit, the narrow shape of his waist, and then back upward again. Noah immediately hated it. What? He asked sharply. Wayne tilted his head slightly, one corner of his mouth lifting. You'd look great with fewer clothes on. Noah nearly inhaled his wine wrong. Wayne's eyes stayed fixed on him. Tate hates blondes, and I'm afraid I'm the reason for that bias of his. Has Tate ever defied natural law for you? Would Tate flaunt man's law, commit unforgivable taboos, and defy his morality every time he lies with you? Do you keep your love for each other a secret because society would put you in prison or separate your union? Has Tate shamelessly committed felonies, pursued his passions, and fuck what any blonde boy says or desires? You dare to come between star-crossed lovers. Tate doesn't need to take a love's name because it's his natural name. Tate loves, but it's not you. I know Tate's darkest secrets, and his closet is darker than your wildest imagination could conjure. Does he miss you so much that he rolls in the dirt over the loss of you? He asked. Would Tate commit acts of defilement on your grave? Would he destroy himself over you? He can't love you because he has no room in his heart for dumb, blind cunts. I've seen Tate being screwed from behind, his control lost, his body gone in pleasure, giving himself over to illegal degradation and lustful annihilation. Tate will never sleep with you, Noah. He'll use you before he sleeps with you. That's how off the table your Congress would be. I've seen Tate have a dozen orgasms as he's being screwed. What have you never seen him do? Wayne licked Noah's ear, leaving Noah shocked to his core. Noah looked away immediately. And Wayne knew instantly he'd landed exactly where he intended. That's what I thought. Noah's chest tightened hard enough to hurt. Because the worst part, the absolute worst part, was that some small, poisonous corner of him had already wondered these things himself. Terrence Tate's father had died, and Tate had unraveled. Completely. Like a building collapsing inward. Noah had watched Tate mourn with a kind of catastrophic devotion that frightened everyone around him. And despite loving Tate with everything he had, Noah knew deep down that nobody would ever occupy the same sacred space in Tate's heart as the people he had already lost. Wayne saw the realization flicker across Noah's face and immediately enjoyed saying it. No, Noah interrupted instantly. His voice shook. Noah set his wineglass down so quickly that some of it splashed over the rim. His hands were trembling now. Wayne noticed immediately. The smugness disappeared from his face almost at once. You know, he said quietly, for someone who claims Tate is cruel, you're doing a pretty incredible impression of him right now. That landed. Wayne visibly flinched. Noah's eyes burned suddenly, humiliation and anger mixing together so violently that he could barely breathe around it. You don't get to talk about him like you know him better than I do. Wayne rubbed a hand across his jaw, frustrated now more with himself than Noah. I wasn't trying to hurt you. Well, congratulations, you did. Noah. You think I don't know Tate is grieving? Noah snapped suddenly, voice low and sharp. You think I don't see it every single day? Several nearby guests glanced over briefly before pretending not to listen. Noah lowered his voice again with visible effort. I know I can't replace anyone, he said. I never asked to. Wayne stared at him. For the first time all evening, Noah looked genuinely angry instead of defensive. And for the record, Noah continued, love is not some competition where the winner suffers the most. Wayne opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Noah shook his head slowly, eyes glassy now. You really are awful sometimes. Before either of them could say another word, a familiar voice cut cleanly through the tension. Noah. Talia. She approached quickly from across the gallery, immediately reading the atmosphere between them with terrifying accuracy. Her eyes narrowed. What happened? Nothing, Wayne said immediately. Noah laughed bitterly, sure. Talia looked between them once before focusing entirely on Noah's expression. And whatever she saw there made her face harden instantly. Okay, she said flatly, conversation over. Talia, Wayne started. No, she interrupted sharply, absolutely not. Wayne straightened slightly, I wasn't. You were upsetting him. Wayne glanced toward Noah, who still refused to look at him. The guilt arrived hard and sudden. Talia moved protectively beside Noah, touching his arm gently. Hey, she said softly, come with me. Noah swallowed once and nodded immediately. Wayne took a step forward instinctively, Noah. Noah finally looked at him then. His expression wasn't furious anymore. Which somehow felt worse. It was hurt. Real hurt. You were wrong about one thing, Noah said quietly. Wayne's brow furrowed slightly. Noah held his gaze. Tate does say my name as if it matters. The sentence hit Wayne square in the chest. Then Noah turned away. Talia guided him carefully through the crowd without another glance backward, leaving Wayne standing alone beside the photographs and champagne and unbearable noise of the auction while guilt settled into him like wet cement. Noah and Riley were seeing each other casually a few times a week. Now they went out 3 nights a week. It wasn't intentional at first, it just became their rhythm. Dinner dates. Long drives. Boat rides around the bay. Sometimes they drove out to Malibu, where some of the best restaurants in California overlooked the ocean. Riley had his own money, not as much as Tate or Noah, but enough that their dates never felt one-sided. They traded off paying for meals without keeping score. It felt normal. Healthy. Comfortable. Tonight they sat outside a small French restaurant, warm lights hanging above the patio tables while the cool evening air carried the smell of fresh bread and butter. Noah leaned back slightly in his chair as the waiter set down their food. French onion soup for him. A basket of baguettes for Riley. Riley tore off a piece of bread immediately, dipping it into butter with obvious delight. Oh my God, Riley said through a mouthful, this bread tastes so good it should be illegal. Noah laughed quietly. You've said that about every restaurant we've gone to. Because good bread is the best part of living. You're ridiculous. Riley grinned. You like it. Noah smiled faintly, lifting his spoon to taste the soup. It was rich and warm, the melted cheese stretching slightly as he lifted it. For a moment he just focused on that. The taste. The smell of the bread. The sound of quiet conversation around them. Anything except the thought that tried to creep into his mind. Tate. It still happened. 20 times a day sometimes. A random memory. A fragment of conversation from years ago. The sound of Tate laughing. But Noah had learned a trick. When the thought appeared, he didn't follow it. He redirected it. Not toward the love he had once felt, but toward the memories they shared. Fishing trips. Late-night conversations. Stupid jokes. The good parts. The friendship that had existed before everything got complicated. It was easier that way. Less painful. Riley waved a piece of bread at him. You're spacing out. Sorry. Thinking about something deep and mysterious. No, Noah said lightly, just thinking. Dangerous activity. I'll try to avoid it. Riley laughed. There was something warm about Riley's presence. Easy, relaxed, he didn't demand anything from Noah. Didn't push. Didn't pry. They simply enjoyed each other's company. And Noah could see something else too. The look Riley sometimes gave him. Soft. Hopeful. Falling. Riley was in love. Noah wasn't blind. He could see it in the way Riley leaned closer when they talked, in the way his smile lingered a little longer than necessary. He lifted his spoon again. Riley wiped butter from his fingers and leaned forward slightly. So I was thinking, Riley said. Uh-oh. What if next weekend we drive up the coast? Just drive. Yeah, no plans, stop wherever we want. Noah considered it. That actually sounds nice. I knew you'd say yes. Riley grinned triumphantly. You're predictable. Only sometimes. The waiter came by briefly to refill their water glasses. As he walked away, Riley rested his elbows on the table. You seem lighter lately, he said. Noah raised an eyebrow. Lighter? Yeah. How so? Like something isn't weighing on you as much. Noah stirred his soup slowly. Maybe Riley wasn't entirely wrong. The distance from Tate had helped. Even if the feelings weren't completely gone, they had quieted enough that Noah could breathe again. I guess I've just been focusing on the present, Noah said. That's healthy. Supposedly. Riley smiled softly. Well, I'm glad you're here with me tonight. The sincerity in his voice made Noah pause. He met Riley's eyes. There it was again. That warmth. That hope. And Noah realized something. Maybe he didn't know yet what his feelings for Riley were. But he knew this moment was real. And maybe that was enough for now. Because sometimes life didn't give you closure. It didn't tie everything up neatly or answer every question you carried. Sometimes it just gave you new paths. New people. New possibilities. And you had to decide whether you were brave enough to walk forward without looking back. Noah took another spoonful of soup and smiled faintly at Riley. For tonight at least, he was willing to try. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, revealing the expansive penthouse loft that spanned the top floor of the sleek, modern building in the heart of Little Tokyo. Noah stepped out, his breath catching at the sight before him. The space was a testament to thoughtful design, open and airy, bathed in natural light pouring through floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the glittering cityscape below. Exposed brick walls contrasted with polished concrete floors, and everywhere he looked, famous paintings hung like silent guardians, a vibrant Basquiat screaming color from one wall, a serene Rothko pulsing with emotion on another. It was an artist's dream, every corner curated to inspire without overwhelming. In the center of the main living area, dominating the room like a throne, sat an Alaska king-sized bed, its crisp white sheets and plush pillows inviting in the warm glow of recessed lighting. Riley closed the door behind them, his hand lingering on Noah's lower back, a gentle touch that sent a spark through Noah's veins. "Welcome to my new world," Riley said with a soft smile, his voice warm and unassuming. He was dressed simply in a fitted black shirt and jeans that hugged his lean frame, his dark hair tousled just enough to look effortlessly inviting. At 33, Riley had carved a niche in entertainment PR, rubbing shoulders with stars and executives, but nothing about him screamed extravagance. The penthouse wasn't a flaunting of ego, it was a strategic haven, a space that impressed clients over cocktails while allowing Riley to shed the superficial mask at the door. He valued real connections, the kind built on kindness and openness, not flash. Noah, with his quiet millions tucked away in investments rather than ostentatious displays, felt an unexpected kinship. He'd never sought out places that showcased wealth, his own white, modest, functional house was, but here, in Riley's carefully chosen sanctuary, he felt seen. "This is incredible," Noah murmured, his eyes tracing the lines of a nearby Warhol print. "Bigger than I imagined, but it suits you, genuine." He turned, meeting Riley's gaze, the air between them thickening with the unspoken tension that had simmered through their dates. Late-night talks over authentic, expensive ramen, walks through the neon-lit streets, and stolen glances that promised more. Riley's cheeks flushed slightly, a genuine warmth in his brown eyes. "You've been to my other penthouse," Riley said, "but I moved here 2 weeks ago because I wanted to be closer to work and my clients. I started my own company and the business has been thriving ever since. I've heard you've built a successful business yourself." He smiled warmly. "I'm proud of you. I love being with a successful man. It's incredibly attractive." Riley slipped his arms around Noah's waist and pulled him close. "I don't do it to impress, it's just practical for work, opens doors without closing off who I am." He stepped closer, his fingers brushing Noah's arm. "But tonight it's just us. No doors, no clients. Are you sure you're ready? We can take it slow or not at all." His voice was earnest, checking in without pressure, a reflection of the man who'd never pushed Noah into anything, from sharing personal stories to this intimate threshold. Noah's heart pounded, a mix of nerves and desire swirling in his chest. "He's so real," Noah thought, "no games, no rush. I want him to feel safe, cherished." He nodded, cupping Riley's face gently. "I'm ready, more than ready, but only if you are. I want to make you feel good, Riley. Tell me what you need." Their lips met then, soft at first, a tentative exploration that deepened as Riley sighed into the kiss, his hand sliding up Noah's chest. Riley and Noah have sex at Riley's new penthouse. Scene retracted, read extended version on Wattpad. Noah guided Riley onto the vast bed, the mattress dipping under their weight. He hovered above, eyes locked on Riley's. "You're beautiful," Noah whispered. Noah's internal voice urged him on, make him feel wanted. "Consent first, always. Let me know if you want me to stop, tell me if it's too much," he said. The next morning, the aroma of sizzling peppers and onions filled the kitchen, blending with the warm scent of slow-cooked beans. Sunday family night was in full swing, and Noah had been careful to coordinate a time when he knew Tate and Chloe wouldn't be around. He didn't want any awkwardness, no lingering ghosts, just an evening where he could introduce Riley to the people he cared about. Riley leaned against the counter, carefully chopping tomatoes, smiling faintly at Noah. "Your family is big," he said, a teasing lilt in his voice. "Yeah, welcome to Chaos Central," Noah replied, trying to keep his tone light. He felt his chest tighten momentarily, a familiar pang that he quickly shoved down. He refused to think about Tate tonight, not now, not with Riley here. "Is that a sombrero?" Riley asked, holding up a bright woven hat Noah's mother had set out for decoration. Noah laughed, "Only the best for taco night, you'll get used to the weird traditions." When they sat down at the table, the energy was warm and loud and everyone was talking at once. Talia smiled over at Riley. "Noah's been talking about you constantly, it's nice to finally meet you." Riley's cheeks flushed lightly. "I've heard a lot about you too," he said, addressing his polite nod to everyone around. Noah stole a glance at him. He couldn't help it, he wanted Riley to feel welcomed, part of this strange, vibrant family he had grown up in, but as he watched Riley settle into the room, a subtle ache surfaced. Tate wasn't here, of course he wasn't supposed to be. Riley reached across the table and brushed Noah's hand lightly while reaching for a tortilla. "I like it here," he murmured, almost under his breath. "Your family, they're fun." Noah smiled, squeezing his hand gently in return. "I'm glad you think so, they can be a bit much at first." Riley laughed a bit. "This is a full-on festival." The conversation bounced between light teasing and genuine curiosity. Talia was asking Riley about his art class, while Susie quizzed him on what he did for work. Noah watched Riley respond with ease, answering honestly but with charm. Internally, Noah was trying to maintain focus. Don't think about Tate, just watch Riley, enjoy this, he's here, he's present, that's what matters. But every so often, a memory would poke its head into the forefront. Tate in his old kitchen, laughing with Chloe, those long fingers brushing against hers. He pushed the thought down firmly. Not now, not tonight. Riley noticed Noah's momentary tension. "You okay?" he whispered. Noah shook his head slightly, forcing a smile. "Yeah, just thinking about the recipe." Riley tilted his head, understanding. He didn't press. He just let his hand linger near Noah's, letting the warmth of their closeness fill the space that had been filled with tension before. The meal progressed. Laughter erupted at small jokes. Stories were shared. Riley found himself telling a story about an art project that went hilariously wrong, and everyone at the table laughed, even Noah's grandmother, who usually kept to herself. Noah felt a quiet swell of satisfaction. He was proud that Riley fit in so naturally, proud that he was able to create this life, this balance. He wanted this moment to last. No Tate, no old ghosts, just Riley, the family, and him. At one point, Noah watched Riley hand a plate of food to his little cousin, the boy grinning widely. He felt a surge of tenderness, a protective, almost paternal instinct, and he realized he liked the thought of building something with Riley. Slowly, steadily, a life that wasn't haunted by Tate or by past regrets. This is good, he thought, this is enough, let it grow, don't rush, don't think about him. Riley caught Noah looking at him and smiled. "You're starring," he teased softly. Noah chuckled, "Just happy you're here." And for the first time in months, Noah allowed himself to relax, to let the night stretch without the weight of unfinished business pressing down. Tate wasn't in the room and he didn't need to be. Tonight, Riley and Noah were enough. The city skyline glimmered as Noah stepped out of the cab, his heart thrumming in his chest like it wanted to escape. The rooftop restaurant Riley had chosen was alive with light, soft music drifting through the air, but Noah felt almost cocooned in the quiet bubble that surrounded them. The world below didn't matter, only Riley mattered. Riley greeted him with that effortless smile, the one that had made Noah's chest tighten the first time they met. "You made it," Riley said warmly, holding the door for him. "I wasn't sure if you'd be free." Noah managed a small laugh, feeling his nerves melt just a little. "I wouldn't miss it," he said, stepping inside. They were seated at a corner table, candlelight flickering across their faces. Noah tried to focus on the menu, but Riley's presence was magnetic. Every movement, every glance drew him in. Riley leaned slightly forward, listening attentively as Noah talked about his day. Not once did Riley glance at his phone or fidget. The attention was complete and unself-conscious. Noah had never felt that before. With most people, conversations were transactional. With Riley, they were excited. "So," Riley said, smiling as he sipped his water, "tell me about your week, not the work stuff, the real stuff. What made you laugh? What annoyed you? What made you pause and think?" Noah hesitated, caught off guard by the question. No one had ever asked him that with genuine curiosity. He considered deflecting, but the sincerity in Riley's eyes made him take a breath and answer. I guess I laughed more than usual at a colleague's ridiculous antics, and I got frustrated with myself a few times, but mostly I don't know, appreciated small things, a quiet evening, a good cup of coffee." Riley nodded, leaning closer, the candlelight dancing in his hazel eyes. "I like that, noticing small things. People overlook them so often. It says a lot about you." Noah felt a heat rise in his cheeks. I never thought anyone would notice." "I notice," Riley said softly, and the warmth in his voice made Noah's chest flutter. "I notice you, Noah, and I like what I see." They ate dinner, but it wasn't about the food. They shared stories, laughed, teased lightly, and Riley had a way of listening that felt like a soft embrace. Noah found himself opening up about things he hadn't told anyone, moments of doubt, fleeting insecurities, small victories no one else had celebrated with him. And Riley remembered each detail, referencing it later in a conversation with ease that made Noah feel understood, seen. After dessert, Riley suggested a walk along the terrace. The wind was cool, carrying the faint scent of the city and flowers from the planter boxes lining the edge. Noah hesitated at first, unsure, self-conscious about the intimacy of the gesture. But he felt drawn to Riley, drawn to the warmth radiating from him. They walked side by side, the city sprawling beneath them. Riley didn't hold his hand immediately. Instead, he let their shoulders brush occasionally, soft contact that sent shivers through Noah. They laughed at a shared joke, Riley's hand brushing slightly against Noah's as he gestured, lingering longer than necessary. Noah's heart raced. Every glance, every touch, every smile seemed to pull him deeper into an orbit he couldn't escape. He realized he had never been this aware of someone before, never felt so acutely attuned to another person, and it scared him. Finally, Riley paused at the edge of the terrace, looking out at the lights. He didn't let go of Noah's hand entirely, instead letting his fingers intertwine gently. Noah felt an electric jolt. The simple act of their hands brushing together, deliberate and intimate, sent a thrill through him that made him catch his breath. "You're warm," Riley said softly, not looking at him directly. Noah swallowed. "You are too." Riley turned his gaze toward him then, eyes searching, steady, inviting. And then slowly, intentionally, he leaned forward. Noah felt his pulse quicken. It was a tentative, gentle movement, almost cautious but deliberate. And when their lips met, it was soft, timid, exploratory, and yet everything Noah didn't realize he'd been craving all along. It wasn't about passion. It wasn't about urgency. It was about connection, understanding, and trust. Riley's hand cupped Noah's cheek and Noah felt safe. Entirely, completely safe. And for the first time in a long while, he didn't worry about judgment, about mistakes, about past betrayals or fears. The kiss lingered, gentle and deliberate, and when they parted, Noah felt a lightness in his chest he hadn't known existed. "That was," he whispered, breathless. "Perfect," Riley suggested with a small, teasing smile. "Yeah," Noah admitted softly, "perfect." They walked again, hands still intertwined, laughing softly. Noah realized that he was thinking about Riley constantly, not obsessively, not fearfully, but in a way that made him excited to be alive, to share his time, to explore this connection. He was falling, and he knew it. Riley was careful, patient, and gentle. Every word, every touch, every glance was measured, intentional, and full of care. Noah had never felt so noticed, so truly seen, and it terrified him in the most thrilling way possible. As they reached the edge of the terrace again, Riley looked down at him, eyes shining. "Noah, I like you a lot. I know it's early, but I feel like I've known you longer than I have." Noah's chest tightened and he felt warmth flooding through him. I like you too, Riley, more than I expected." And it wasn't a fleeting feeling. It was weighty and real, a tether of heart and mind and soul binding him to Riley in a way that made everything else fade away. They stayed on the terrace for nearly an hour, talking, sharing secrets, revealing small vulnerabilities. Noah felt something shift inside him, a quiet confidence that maybe he could let himself be happy, maybe he could trust someone, maybe he could love again without fear. By the time they parted, the city lights twinkling below, Noah knew his world had changed. Riley had opened a door he didn't realize had been closed, and he had stepped through it willingly. The walk back to the cab was quiet but comfortable. Hands still brushed occasionally, smiles exchanged like promises. Noah felt an unfamiliar flutter in his chest, a mix of joy, anticipation, and that dangerous, dizzying thing called hope. "Text me when you get home," Riley asked softly. "I will," Noah said. And when he finally stepped into his apartment, closing the door behind him, he sank onto the couch and let himself feel it: warmth, connection, trust, and the undeniable realization that he was in love. It wasn't casual, it wasn't playful, it was real, solid, and terrifying. For the first time in years, Noah felt seen, desired, understood, and safe, and he knew, without question, that he wanted more. Noah woke the next morning with a strange mixture of exhilaration and anxiety. The memory of Riley's hand in his own lingered like a warmth that had seeped into his bones. He felt lightheaded one moment, heavy with excitement the next. Every time he thought about the kiss, his chest fluttered, and a small, nervous smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. He couldn't resist checking his phone. A single unread message from Riley waited. "Good morning, did you sleep well?" Noah's heart skipped. His fingers hovered over the screen for a second longer than necessary, then he typed back. "I did, better than expected, you. I slept thinking about you, that kiss, it was perfect." Noah felt warmth spreading through him, and for a moment he just stared at the message, unsure how to respond. It was thrilling, terrifying, and grounding all at once. He typed back, heart racing. "Perfect, I felt safe, I didn't expect that." The reply came almost instantly. "Good, that's exactly how I wanted you to feel, safe, happy, alive." Noah couldn't stop the smile that spread across his face. The feeling was intoxicating, like walking on a tightrope of nervous excitement. He realized he had spent so long guarding his heart, being careful, pretending he could control everything, but Riley had bypassed all his walls, and he liked it. He liked it so much that it made him dizzy. That morning, every small interaction with Riley was electric. A text asking if Noah wanted to meet for coffee. A quick call to discuss an upcoming event, which turned into a 30-minute conversation about favorite books and childhood memories. Noah found himself laughing more freely than he had in months, feeling a closeness he hadn't allowed himself to experience in years. By the time they met again later that week, Noah felt the tension in his chest, the nervous energy in his limbs. Riley greeted him with that calm, gentle smile, and Noah realized he could already anticipate the warmth it would bring. "Hey," Riley said softly, "you made it." Noah nodded, feeling suddenly shy. I wouldn't miss it." They walked along a quiet street toward a small cafe Riley favored. Their hands brushed casually at first, a touch so light Noah almost thought he imagined it. But Riley's fingers gently curved around his, tentative and careful, seeking permission. Noah felt a shiver race through him, the kind of small electric thrill that seemed to set his nerves alight. "You don't have to do this," Noah murmured, his voice barely above the wind. Riley shook his head, a soft smile on his lips. "I want to, only if you do." Noah hesitated a moment longer, then laced their fingers together. The contact was gentle but deliberate, grounding him, sending a warmth through his body that made him feel alive and cared for. Every step they took together, hand in hand, was a revelation. At the cafe, they chose a quiet corner, faces illuminated by the soft glow of a hanging lamp. Noah noticed how Riley adjusted his chair slightly, leaning in as he spoke, eyes fixed on him with unbroken attention. Noah found himself telling stories he hadn't shared with anyone, about childhood fears, awkward school moments, moments of pride and shame. Riley listened without interruption, without judgment, smiling or laughing at exactly the right times. After coffee, they decided to walk through a nearby park. The sun was low, casting long shadows over the path. Noah felt the thrill of Riley's hand in his again, warm and sure. At one point, Riley gently guided him around a puddle, brushing a strand of wet hair from his forehead, and Noah felt his breath catch. "Riley," he started, but the word felt too fragile, too exposed to carry the weight of everything he felt. Riley's gaze met his. "It's okay," he said softly. "You don't have to say anything, just feel it, that's enough." Noah exhaled shakily, letting himself be present. He realized that with Riley he didn't have to protect himself constantly. He could relax, could be vulnerable, could laugh, and even stammer through his words without fear of judgment. It was intoxicating. Over the next few months, their connection deepened. Texts became more frequent, playful, and teasing. A morning message about Riley's coffee spilling accidentally. A late-night photo of a cat Riley had seen on the street. Noah responded with jokes, emojis, and tiny personal insights. Every exchange felt charged, intimate, like they were building a private world together, one message at a time. And then came the first real test of trust. Noah was anxious about an event he had to attend, his nerves making his palms sweat. Riley noticed immediately. "You're tense," Riley said over the phone. "Talk to me." I don't want to seem unprofessional," Noah admitted. "I don't want to mess things up." "You won't," Riley said firmly. "But if you need someone to be there, even just virtually, I'm here. I care about you, Noah. You're not alone in this." Noah felt something loosen inside him, a tight coil of fear unwinding. Riley's words, simple and direct, grounded him. "Thank you," he whispered. "You're welcome," Riley said, soft and unwavering. "Now breathe, you've got this." The reassurance, the presence, even from a distance, was a revelation. Noah realized he had never experienced anything like it before. With Riley, he could feel nervous, vulnerable, imperfect, and still completely accepted. By the following weekend, Riley invited Noah to an outdoor art show. They walked side by side, hands brushing naturally, laughter spilling over small shared jokes. Noah felt his chest lift, his mind calm, even when the crowd pressed in around them. He noticed the way Riley's eyes lit up when he found a painting he loved, the soft exhale of awe when a sculpture captured his imagination. And Noah realized he could feel joy without fear, because Riley was there, steady, attentive, patient. At one point, Riley leaned slightly closer, brushing his shoulder against Noah's. Noah froze, heart racing, and then relaxed when Riley's hand found his again. They held hands throughout the remainder of the show, squeezing gently, thumbs brushing. Noah felt a thrill in the small, intentional intimacy, a private universe of trust and affection that no one else could touch. They stopped at a quiet bench, surrounded by blooming flowers and the gentle hum of city life. Riley turned to him, eyes shining, and Noah felt the familiar flutter in his chest. "You're incredible," Riley said softly. "I feel like I've known you longer than I have, and I like that a lot." Noah felt the warmth spread from his chest to his fingers, his toes, his entire being. I like you too," he admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "More than I thought I could." Riley smiled, leaning in slowly, tilting his head, and their lips met once again. This kiss was different from the first, more confident, more deliberate, carrying the weight of shared trust, of growing affection, of a promise unspoken. Noah melted into it, feeling the connection deepen, understanding that he had begun to fall fully, irrevocably in love. Afterward, they leaned against each other on the bench, hands still intertwined, content in the quiet glow of the moment. Noah felt a peace he hadn't known in years, a sense of being truly seen, accepted, and cherished. Riley and Noah spent the rest of the afternoon wandering the city streets, laughing, sharing stories, teasing lightly, enjoying the simple thrill of being together. Noah felt a constant flutter in his chest, a mixture of joy, nervous anticipation, and the dizzying, beautiful sensation of falling in love. By the time they parted that evening, Noah was smiling, chest still tight with excitement. Riley held his hand for a long moment, thumb brushing over his knuckles. "Text me when you get home," Riley asked softly. "I will," Noah said, voice trembling slightly with emotion. "And thank you." "For what?" "For being you, for making me feel alive," Noah whispered. "You're worth it," Riley said simply. Walking home, Noah realized that everything had changed. He was falling in love not with someone distant, untouchable, or unattainable, but with a person who made him feel safe, seen, and exhilarated all at once. And he knew he wanted to explore this, nurture it, and trust it, even if it scared him. Weeks that followed felt surreal for Noah. Each day with Riley brought new layers of connection, small shared routines that deepened the bond between them. Mornings began with text messages that bordered on silly photos of coffee spills, inside jokes about a TV show neither could stop watching, playful dares that involved walking a block out of the way just to say hello in person. But within these tiny moments, Noah felt a growing certainty. Riley was not just someone he liked, he was someone he trusted. One Saturday afternoon, they decided to explore the local farmers market. The sun warmed the streets, children laughed nearby, and the air smelled faintly of fresh bread and flowers. Noah kept stealing glances at Riley, marveling at the ease in his movements, the soft, attentive way he listened when Noah explained why he loved a particular vendor's honey. Riley nudged him lightly, catching him staring. "Thinking about something?" he asked, eyebrows raised playfully. "No," Noah said quickly, his face warming. "Just enjoying us." Riley grinned, looping his arm with Noah's as they walked past a display of fresh produce. The casual intimacy of the gesture made Noah's heart race, not with panic, but with a quiet, steady excitement. This was the kind of closeness he had yearned for, the kind he never thought he would allow himself to feel again. By mid-afternoon, they stopped at a quiet bench under the shade of a tree. Riley pulled out 2 small pastries he had bought at a nearby stand and handed one to Noah. "I figured you might like this," he said, his tone light but deliberate. Noah smiled, accepting it. "You remembered." "Of course," Riley said, watching him with a mixture of amusement and affection. "Little things matter, Noah. You notice them, so do I too." Noah took a bite of the pastry, his chest tightening at the way Riley's gaze lingered. He realized that every small act, every gentle word, every thoughtful glance had been building a silent promise between them. A promise of care, trust, and emotional intimacy that transcended anything he had experienced before. Later that evening, as they walked home, Riley's hand found Noah's again, not out of habit but out of desire, an unspoken acknowledgement of the bond they were nurturing. Noah felt the warmth spread through him like sunlight after a long winter. He realized that the nervous energy he had felt during their first kiss had transformed into something steady and enduring: trust, affection, and the first true stirrings of love. Riley's eyes caught his, and for a moment the world seemed to shrink. "Noah," he said softly, "I like being with you, really being with you. You make things easier, lighter, happier, and I hope I do the same for you." Noah's throat tightened. "You do," he whispered, fingers brushing against Riley's. "You make me feel safe and seen and alive." On Friday night, the steakhouse glowed with soft amber light, polished wood, and the low murmur of moneyed conversations. Crystal glasses caught the light. Linen napkins rested neatly folded on laps. A pianist played something subtle and expensive in the corner. Noah sat across from Riley, one hand wrapped around the stem of his wineglass, listening as Riley spoke with easy confidence. "It's been insane lately," Riley was saying, smiling as he cut into his steak. "Awards season always is. Everyone wants visibility without exposure, you know. They want headlines but not scrutiny." Noah chuckled lightly. "Sounds exhausting." "It can be," Riley admitted. "I love it. The strategy, the timing, one wrong word and a career implodes, one right sentence and suddenly everyone's talking about you for the right reasons." Noah nodded, genuinely interested. "So you're the person who decides what people don't hear." Riley laughed. "That's one way to put it. I manage narratives, shape perception, damage control, image building, all of it. When the biggest names screw up, I'm usually the one getting the call." Noah smiled, watching him. Riley was magnetic in a quiet way, self-assured, polished, completely at ease in rooms like this. It was different from the gravity he felt around Tate. Less volatile, less heavy, easier to breathe. They talked about the weather next, of all things, how strange the winter had been, how warm it felt for the time of year. Riley joked about never knowing what city he'd wake up in anymore. Noah shared a story about getting caught in the rain walking home from work, both of them laughing softly. It was pleasant, comfortable, and normal. For now, Noah lifted his glass, met Riley's eyes, and smiled. And the world kept moving, split cleanly down the middle between what was known, what was hidden, and what was about to change everything. Noah wasn't sure when comfort had quietly replaced caution, only that it had. With Riley, nothing felt forced. There was no need to explain himself, no tightness in his chest when he laughed, no scanning for the moment something would go wrong. Being with Riley felt like stepping into warm light after years of learning how to stand in shadow. They'd known each other for more than 18 months now, long enough that routines had formed without either of them nomming them. Late dinners when schedules allowed, long texts that didn't demand immediate replies, a shared understanding that silence didn't mean absence. Riley never pushed. He didn't interrogate Noah's past or poke at old wounds. He simply showed up consistently with patience and humor and a steadiness Noah hadn't realized he'd been craving. Noah rarely thought of Tate anymore. When he did, it felt distant, like remembering a childhood neighborhood you no longer lived in, familiar, formative, but no longer relevant to the life you were building. There was no point revisiting something that had never had space to grow. Tate had been a constant once, but constants can fade into footnotes when the story moves forward. Noah had made his peace with that. He'd had to survive. Riley, by contrast, existed fully in the present. He was successful without being arrogant, talented without needing to be admired, and popular without being performative. He talked about his work with an easy confidence that came from competence rather than ego. He listened, really listened, when Noah spoke, remembered small details, asked questions that felt like invitations instead of probes. Some nights Noah would catch himself watching Riley talk, animated and thoughtful, hands moving as he explained something about a client or a campaign. In those moments Noah felt a quiet disbelief bloom in his chest. How did I get this lucky? It felt like winning the lottery, not because Riley was impressive on paper, but because being with him felt safe and expansive at the same time. They enjoyed each other in simple ways, cooking together when Riley wasn't traveling, sharing music, arguing lightly about movies, walking side by side without needing to fill every second with words. There was an ease to it that Noah had never known, a sense that he didn't have to earn his place or manage someone else's emotions. He wasn't sure when it had happened exactly. Looking back, it felt gradual, almost sneaky. Over the first 3 months, Riley had fallen first, small signs at first, extra care, a softness in his voice, the way he prioritized Noah without making a show of it. Noah had noticed, filed it away, and stayed cautious. And then, without warning, Noah realized he'd fallen deeper. Not dramatically, not all at once, just steadily, in the way Riley's presence had begun to feel essential rather than optional. In the way Noah reached for his phone without thinking. In the way he felt calmer, braver, more himself. Riley's love hadn't overwhelmed him, it had made room. And for the first time, Noah didn't feel like he was standing on the edge of something impossible. He felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. It had taken Noah a long time, longer than he liked to admit, to understand what he had actually felt for Tate all those years. From the age of 8, it had been intense, consuming, and confusing, and because it had lasted so long, he had assumed it must be love. But distance, therapy, and time had stripped that belief down to its bones. What he had felt wasn't love. It was infatuation, obsession, diligence, a kind of emotional vigilance that came from growing up beside someone unpredictable and magnetic, someone who needed him, relied on him, and pulled him into orbit whether Noah wanted it or not. Tate had been the center of gravity for so long that Noah had mistaken the pull for devotion. In reality, it had been survival mixed with hope. Hope that if he stayed close enough, steady enough, careful enough, everything would eventually be okay. With Riley, there was no gravity, no constant recalibration of mood or fear of missteps. What Noah felt now was quieter but infinitely deeper. It was mature, stable, safe. And safe to Noah was not a consolation prize. When most people heard the word safe, they thought of settling, of passion dulled, of compromise. But Noah had lived his entire life without safety, emotional or otherwise. To him, safe meant constant, kind, reliable. It meant someone whose affection didn't spike and vanish, someone who didn't need managing, someone who showed up the same way on good days and bad ones. Riley was safe in the way a warm blanket is safe, not restrictive, not dull, but comforting and present. Riley checked in. Riley followed through. Riley noticed when Noah was tired or quiet and didn't demand explanations, just adjusted, made space, stayed. He cared, and more importantly, he showed that he cared every single day in ways both small and unmistakable. As kids, Tate had often gotten physical. Noah understood now that it hadn't come from cruelty or indifference. It had come from excess, too much feeling, too much fear, too much intensity with nowhere healthy to go. Tate had cared too much in a way that overwhelmed them both. That understanding had brought Noah peace, but it hadn't brought longing. Because Noah's life wasn't about Tate anymore. That chapter had shaped him, yes, but it no longer defined him. Tate was part of his past, an important one, but not his future. The future belonged to the man who sat beside him now, who laughed with him, who planned trips months in advance, who spoke easily about we instead of maybe. With Riley, Noah felt something he had never known before: contentment. Not excitement laced with anxiety, not hope tangled with fear, just a steady, genuine happiness that didn't require vigilance. For the first time, Noah could imagine a family that wasn't built on endurance, a partnership that didn't require self-erasure, a future that felt open instead of fragile. He had never been content when he was with Tate, not truly. There had always been an edge, a waiting for the other shoe to drop, a sense that love, if it ever came, would be hard-won and painful. With Riley, love was already there. And for the first time in his life, Noah wasn't just surviving a relationship. He was living one. The steakhouse hummed with low conversation and the soft clink of glassware, the kind of place where time slowed on purpose. Warm light pooled over the table, catching the marbling on the menu photos and the faint sheen of polished wood. Noah rested his elbows on the table, scanning the options, while Riley watched him with quiet amusement. "You're reading that like it's a contract," Riley said, smiling. Noah laughed, folding the menu slightly. "Food matters. If I'm committing to a ribeye, I need to know what I'm getting into." Riley's eyes lit up. Finally, someone who understands the gravity of dinner. That did it. Noah relaxed, shoulders dropping as the tension eased out of him. "Okay," he said, leaning in conspiratorially. "What's your order strategy, because I feel like you have one." "I do," Riley admitted. "I ask the server what they would order if it were their last shift, not what's popular, what they love." Noah's eyebrows shot up. "That's genius." "It's saved me more times than I can count," Riley said. "That and never skipping sides. Sides tell you everything about a kitchen." They ordered together, comparing notes like collaborators. When the server left, Noah took a sip of his wine and grinned. "So what's your food hill to die on?" Riley considered it. Mashed potatoes should be unapologetically buttery. If they're trying not to be healthy, they've already failed. Noah laughed loud enough to earn a glance from a nearby table. "Yes, exactly, and if they don't leave a faint trail on the plate, what are we even doing?" "See," Riley said, pleased, "we're aligned." The conversation drifted easily from there. Favorite meals, travel memories tied to taste rather than landmarks, the way certain dishes felt like time machines. Noah talked about a hole-in-the-wall diner he loved for breakfast for dinner nights, how the pancakes tasted like comfort and the coffee like resolve. Riley countered with stories from late nights in unfamiliar cities, finding solace in room service fries eaten cross-legged on hotel beds. When the food arrived, they both paused. "Moment of silence," Noah said. "For the cow," Riley added solemnly. They cut in at the same time, both nodding after the first bite. Noah's eyes closed for half a second. "Oh, that's good." Riley laughed softly. "Right, it's honest, no gimmicks." They compared bites, offered each other tastes without hesitation, forks crossing midair, the small intimacy of sharing plates. Noah noticed how natural it felt, how there was no self-consciousness, no measuring, just enjoyment. "This," Noah said, gesturing at the table, steak, potatoes, glasses, the easy quiet between them, "this is my favorite kind of evening." Riley studied him, expression warm but unintrusive. "Mine too." They lingered over dessert, debating whether it was better to share or order separately and steal bites. They shared, of course. Riley broke off the perfect forkful and handed it over without ceremony. Noah took it, smiling, the sweetness grounding him. As they sat back, full and content, Riley said, "You know what I like most about eating with you." Noah tilted his head. "What?" "You're present," Riley said. "You taste things, you enjoy them. It's rare in my business." Noah felt a small, surprising swell in his chest. "Food's honest," he said. "It shows up as itself." Riley raised his glass, "To honest food." Noah clinked his glass against it, "And good company." They sat there a moment longer, savoring the last of it, the warmth, the ease, the shared pleasure of something simple done well, both of them smiling, both of them exactly where they wanted to be. Noah loved the time he spent with Riley. It wasn't just that they enjoyed each other, it was the way their conversations opened doors he hadn't even known were there. Riley talked about things Noah had never encountered before, the strange choreography of public image, how narratives were built and dismantled, how power moved quietly through rooms most people never saw. Noah listened, curious, engaged, surprised by how much he liked learning simply for the pleasure of it. With Riley, discussion wasn't a performance or a test, it was an exchange. Sometimes, in the middle of those conversations, Noah found himself thinking of Susie. He missed her, not in a painful way, just in the way you miss someone who shaped you during an important season of your life. They'd met at Brown so many years ago, bonded over late-night talks and shared exhaustion, over humor that cut through stress like a blade. Susie had always been sharp, attentive, deeply loyal. For 3 years she had spent so much time making sure Noah was okay, checking in, noticing when he pulled back, holding space without demanding anything in return. Now she was dadding a financier. Noah smiled every time he thought about it. The relationship had been going on for almost a year, steady and real, and Susie sounded different when she talked about him, lighter, hopeful. She'd mentioned, half laughing, that by next summer she might even be engaged. Noah was genuinely happy for her. She deserved something that was hers. A person who showed up for her the way she had always shown up for others. Someone who could care for her romantically or platonically, it didn't matter as long as she wasn't the one always carrying the weight. He had also heard distantly that Tate was still married and enjoying his life. Talia had mentioned it casually a week or two earlier, her tone calm, almost relieved. They seemed happy, she'd said. Settled. Noah had nodded, felt a brief flicker of something neutral pass through him, and then let it go. That chapter was closed. He realized something then that surprised him with its simplicity. He didn't feel loss. He didn't feel regret. He felt glad that the people who had mattered to him, former friends, current ones, were finding their footing, building lives that fit them better than the old patterns ever had. And he was happy too. Riley was happy, they were happy together, not euphoric, not clinging, just solid, warm, real. For the first time Noah could remember, his happiness didn't come with an edge. There was no waiting for the moment things would collapse, no scanning for danger, no bracing for impact. He could breathe, fully, deeply. It felt like standing in a quiet room after years of noise, realizing the silence wasn't empty, it was peaceful. We were all happy. And this time Noah trusted it. Riley walked Noah to his car, their shoulders brushing now and then as they crossed the dimly lit lot. The night air was cool, grounding, a quiet contrast to the warmth that had followed them out of the restaurant. Noah fumbled for his keys, smiling to himself, already feeling that familiar end-of-date calm settle into his chest. Riley stopped him before he opened the door. He didn't rush it. He never did. He just reached out, fingers curling gently at Noah's wrist, a silent question Noah had learned to answer without thinking. Their lips met easily, no hesitation, no surprise. It was the kind of kiss Noah had come to expect at the end of every night together, gentle but full, unhurried yet undeniably passionate. Riley's hand rested warm at Noah's jaw, thumb brushing lightly as if committing the moment to memory. Noah leaned in instinctively, letting the kiss deepen just enough to feel that shared spark, that quiet certainty. There was no drama in it, no fear, just affection, attraction, and trust woven together. When they pulled back, Riley rested his forehead briefly against Noah's. "Text me when you're home," he said softly. "I always do," Noah replied with a smile, and he meant more than just the message. As he slid into his car, Noah felt it again, that steady sense of well-being that had become almost unfamiliar in its consistency. He was happy. Not in a fragile, hold-your-breath way, but in a way that felt earned, grounded. He was thriving. His life hadn't been smooth. It had been full of hiccups, sharp turns. Moments where he'd had to stop and reassess everything he thought he knew about himself and the people around him. He wasn't naive enough to think the road ahead would be perfectly even. He could handle a few bumps. What Noah wanted, what he needed, was stability, safety, a life that felt nurturing rather than exhausting. 25-plus years as Tate's companion made Noah yearn for safety and stability. Riley gave him that. Riley gave him so much more than safety. Not through grand gestures or promises, but through consistency, through kindness, through shared values and mutual effort. Noah didn't love Riley simply because of what Riley gave him, though that mattered. He loved him for who he was, for what he offered the world, for the future he wanted, one that aligned so naturally with Noah's own hopes. Riley was a cold ice beverage in a hot desert. As Noah started the car and pulled away, he realized something quietly profound. For the first time in his life, he wasn't bracing for impact. He was just moving forward smoothly, and it felt right. Noah drove home along his usual route, enjoying the familiar stretch of palm trees and the open view ahead of him. The temperature hovered in the mid-50s, cool, slightly muggy, the kind of weather that made the night feel calm rather than heavy. He had come to expect the quiet. He lived in a peaceful neighborhood on the west side of town, in a small green house he'd bought a few years earlier with the check Tate had given him. He was glad he had taken it. He'd put the money into the bank, invested carefully, and for the rest of his life he was financially solvent. He didn't have to work, he didn't have to worry about bills or survival. He could live, travel, meet new people, and choose his days instead of enduring them. Someday if he ran into Tate again at a family function or some distant event, he would thank him. Maybe with a hug, maybe with a small shoulder nudge, something simple, something honest. He hadn't seen Tate as often as he had when they were younger. He didn't know exactly how he was doing, but Talia hadn't mentioned anything bad, so Noah assumed Tate was okay. She'd said he was in therapy, medicated, and seemed happier in his marriage to Chloe. Stable. Part of Noah knew he would always love Tate. You don't love someone for 25 years and have it simply evaporate because you meet someone else. But sometimes the person you love isn't good for you. Sometimes love is unrequited or mismatched or incapable of becoming what you need, and that has nothing to do with either person being bad. Sometimes people just aren't meant to be, and no amount of pinning, hopping, or wishing will make it so. Noah had finally come to peace with that. Tate did love him, just not in the way Noah had needed since elementary school. And the hardest truth was that Tate had always been honest about that. He had told Noah many times that he wasn't capable of loving him the way Noah deserved to be loved. Noah had stayed anyway. He had given years of his life to someone who wasn't able or willing to love him back in that way, and that had been Noah's choice, just silently wait and hide his feelings while Tate acted like the decision to return Noah's affections didn't exist. He didn't blame Tate for it, not anymore. That was why Riley felt so different. Riley didn't get jealous. He didn't try to control or test or pull Noah into emotional battles. He was just there, steady, kind, present, like a warm fire on a nice day, not something you cling to in desperation but something that makes everything around you feel better simply by existing. As Noah turned onto his street and pulled into his driveway, he realized something quietly profound. For the first time in his life, love didn't feel like endurance. It felt like peace. Tate could be an asshole, there was no denying that, but Noah could be one too. They both knew exactly how to hurt each other, where to press, what to say, and that knowledge had made their bond as sharp as it had made it deep. Riley was the partner Noah deserved. Noah would be 28 next month, and for the first time he felt ready to want something real, something complete. He wanted a relationship with a man who could meet him where he was emotionally and mentally, someone who could match the depth of his own feelings. Not someone who loved him as a placeholder or as a friend or out of habit. He wanted someone who would chase him, pursue him, and not stop until every part of him felt desired. He wanted a man with the emotional maturity to give love in full, the mental capacity to understand him, and the generosity to stay when things were hard. He wanted someone who looked at him and sparked a fire, a man who didn't just exist alongside him but made him feel alive every day. Riley gave him that and more. Noah had dreams he had barely let himself think about before. He wanted at least 2 children, maybe a girl, maybe a boy, and he knew Riley wanted that too. They had talked about it quietly, seriously, without pressure, and the possibility felt like sunlight breaking through clouds he hadn't realized he'd been living under. Riley had built his own business from the ground up and was thriving. A smash hit in his field, admired for talent and drive. Noah had started a small company of his own, making smart, strategic investments that promised to pay off not just for him, but for the children he hoped to have, for the family he wanted to create. He didn't know exactly when it would happen or if everything would line up perfectly, but he wanted to pursue it with Riley. He wanted it all with Riley, everything, every possibility, every day, every small triumph, and every challenge. For the first time in his life, Noah felt like he could have that kind of life, and he felt ready to live it fully. Noah had talked to Susie, and her words still echoed in his mind. Don't wait for anyone who can't meet you where you are, don't settle, don't compromise who you are. And now, standing in the quiet glow of his home, Noah felt ready. He wanted to ask Riley for his hand in marriage. The thought was thrilling, terrifying, and for a moment, almost paralyzing. He had the ring box in his pocket, small and heavy, pressing against his palm like a secret heartbeat. He froze, his mind raced. What if I mess this up? What if the timing is wrong? Of course, Riley hadn't noticed. Noah hadn't even started to propose. He was just fumbling, caught between fear and certainty when Riley made a joke, something about how rare the moments were between them while eating a rare steak. Noah laughed, really laughed, the kind of laugh that spills out unexpectedly, leaving your chest warm and your stomach sore, and in that instant he knew, it wasn't just today that he wanted Riley, it wasn't tomorrow, it wasn't even next week. He wanted him 40 years from now, 50. For every meal, every quiet night, every shared triumph, every small disaster. He was the lucky one? Riley would probably tell him otherwise, claiming that Riley was the fortunate one, but Noah knew better. Luck had nothing to do with it. He had stumbled into it. Noah had taken Susie's advice, gone on a cruise with Mark that had meant nothing, and there Riley was, just standing there, smiling, alive, and very real. It felt like destiny, and yet Noah couldn't help but think about all the time he had wasted waiting for someone who wasn't capable of giving him what he deserved. He didn't regret the years with Tate, not truly. They had shaped him, taught him endurance, and revealed his capacity for patience. But he wished he had sought more for himself back then, instead of investing so much in someone who couldn't meet him halfway. Now for the next 50 years, Noah promised himself he would pursue himself first. He would chase what he needed, what he wanted, without hesitation. And if that included a partner like Riley, someone who loved him fiercely, completely, and fully, even better. Noah realized that if his future didn't include a partner, he wouldn't be any less complete or any less capable of being happy. He decided then and there that, regardless of who he slept beside, even if that space remained empty, his purpose in life would be to become the person he needed to be in order to honestly say he was content. If things didn't work out with Riley, he would be sad, but it would simply mean he was beginning a different adventure. And if by some chance it lasted, it would mark the beginning of an adventure shared with someone else. Either way, Noah refused to rely on another person for his validation, acceptance, or happiness. Those were things he would build within himself. Noah took a deep breath, fingers tightening around the ring box in his coat pocket. He was ready. This wasn't just a moment, it was the beginning of everything he had wanted, finally within reach, and for once he didn't feel fear. He felt certainty, warmth, and a quiet, unshakable happiness. He had found the person who could meet him, who matched him, who inspired him to keep reaching for all the years yet to come. And Riley was already everything he could have hoped for and more. Noah had gone down on one knee in the restaurant, the warm glow of the lights washing over them, the quiet hum of diners fading into the background. He held the ring in his hand, but it was more than a ring, it was the culmination of everything he had felt since he met Riley. Every laugh they had shared, every late-night conversation, every stolen glance and shared secret, every moment that had made him certain Riley was the one. He told Riley everything, how he had known from the very first moment they met that Riley was different, that he was the person he had been waiting for without even realizing it. He spoke about their first kiss, the way it had set his heart on fire and left him breathless, how special Riley had made him feel, how every small gesture and smile had built up a life Noah wanted to give to him. He spoke of his hopes and dreams for them, of love, partnership, laughter, and adventure. Every word was raw, honest, and full of the kind of vulnerability Noah had never allowed himself before. Riley's eyes were bright, shining, and when Noah finished, he didn't hesitate. He picked Noah up, swung him around, and laughed, a sound full of joy and disbelief. "Yes," Riley cried, and it wasn't just a word, it was a promise, a commitment, a shared future. Noah didn't think about Tate once. Tate had no business inserting himself into this life, into this future. The past, the choices, the alternate lives, the pain and the longing, they were all boxed up somewhere deep in Noah's mind, carefully packed and set aside. It had been an unfortunate journey, full of lessons, heartache, and growth, but it had come to an end, and the destination was something different, something better than he had ever expected. Now Noah was on a new journey, one that belonged entirely to him and Riley. A journey of love, trust, and shared adventure. A journey he hoped would only end when one of them passed away. A life built not on what was lost but on everything they had chosen to build together. And as he held Riley close, spinning gently in the middle of the restaurant, Noah felt it fully. The joy, the certainty, and the freedom to love without fear, without restraint, and without looking back. Noah finally made it back to his little white house, and a wave of contentment washed over him. The faint scent of soil, the warmth of the late afternoon sun filtering through the glass panels, and the quiet hum of his little sanctuary wrapped around him like a familiar, comforting blanket. He sank onto the bench near his favorite section of potted orchids, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat and the gentle excitement bubbling beneath it. He knew that in the not-too-distant future he would probably be selling the house. Maybe after he and Riley would be married in 2 months, in June of 1996, plans were still forming, but that idea didn't dim his happiness, it enhanced it. Every step toward their wedding felt like a promise fulfilled, a dream being shaped into reality. He was getting married in 2001, and the thought of it made him smile in a way that was bright and unrestrained. For now, though, he was entirely present in the white-colored house. He didn't notice the car parked a few yards down the street. He didn't see the hazel-eyed man sitting in the front seat, waiting, curious, and patient. Noah's mind was alive with more immediate concerns: the proposal, the plants he tended with care, the meticulous list of wedding details forming in his head. He had already thought about the flowers, the ceremony layout, and the kind of food he wanted to serve. The honeymoon had been planned in broad strokes, a European adventure that would span several countries, made possible by the combination of his savings and Riley's financial security. He imagined strolling along cobbled streets, tasting local cuisine, discovering quiet cafes and galleries, and laughing with Riley in ways that made the world feel impossibly small and endlessly wide at the same time. Noah had enjoyed the time he had spent with the Blue family. They had been kind, welcoming, supportive, but he realized that he wanted more than to be a surrogate son or a guest in someone else's orbit. He wanted a life built for himself, a home that belonged to him and Riley, a family created through love, whether by blood, adoption, or the shared life they would craft together. Noah remembered the first moments of connection between him and Riley, even after Tate got married to Chloe. Riley didn't try too hard, that was what made it dangerous. They met for drinks. Riley wore a simple black shirt, sleeves rolled just enough to show his forearms. He listened more than he spoke, asked questions that felt intentional. But it was the eye contact. Riley held Noah's gaze like he was studying him, like he was deciding something. When their fingers brushed, reaching for the same glass, Riley didn't pull away immediately. His thumb lingered against Noah's knuckle. Noah's pulse jumped. Outside at the end of the night, Riley stepped close, close enough that Noah could smell the faint spice of his cologne. "I don't rush things," Riley said softly. Then he leaned in and stopped just short of a kiss. Noah went home restless. Riley had already begun. Their date was so romantic. Riley invited Noah over just to hang out. The couch felt smaller than it should have. Their knees touched first. Riley didn't move away. Halfway through the movie, Riley shifted closer. Casual, natural. His arm settled along the back of the couch, not around Noah but behind him. A silent question. Noah leaned back into the space. Riley's fingers brushed Noah's shoulder, slow and deliberate. "You're tense," Riley murmured. He slid his hand lightly down Noah's arm. The first kiss happened without announcement. Gentle, testing, Riley let Noah set the pace but guided the rhythm. When he pulled back, his lips ghosted along Noah's jaw. "Better," he whispered. Noah's hands trembled for 10 minutes afterward. More dates followed as the two smitten men met and continued their talks and interests 3 times a week. Dinner at Riley's place was so much fun. Candles, music low, the kind of setting that wasn't accidental. Noah stood at the counter tasting sauce when Riley stepped behind him. Close, their bodies aligned. Riley reached around him but his hand lingered at Noah's waist. "You trust me?" Riley asked quietly. Noah nodded before thinking. Riley turned him gently, kissed him slower this time, deeper, intentional. His hands explored carefully, learning, not taking. Every touch asked permission without words. Noah felt undone, not because Riley pushed too far, because he knew exactly when to stop. And he did. That restraint was worse than impatience. They didn't leave Riley's bedroom. They lay side by side, talking about everything that had shaped them, the hard things, the lonely things. Riley traced circles along Noah's forearm while he listened. "You hide," Riley said softly, not accusing, observing. Noah swallowed. Riley leaned over and kissed his forehead, then his cheek, then his mouth, slower than ever before. This wasn't about seduction. This was about choosing. "Stay tonight," Riley said. And Noah did. Riley held him like he wasn't something temporary. That was when Noah knew he was in trouble. Riley hadn't meant to fall for Noah. At first, Noah was just noise in the hallway, loud laughter, messy blonde hair, that worn hoodie he refused to throw away. Riley noticed him the way you notice a flicker of light in the corner of your eye. Interesting, distracting, temporary. But Noah stayed. It started small, shared glances during class, a smirk when Riley made a sarcastic comment under his breath. Noah seemed to understand him without needing explanations, which was rare. Most people mistook Riley's quiet for arrogance. Noah didn't. He'd lean over and whisper, "You're thinking something dangerous, aren't you?" And Riley would fight a smile he couldn't quite hide. The first time Riley felt something shift was on a rainy afternoon. They'd been stuck under the overhang outside the gym, water pouring down in sheets. Noah had tilted his head back, letting the rain soak his hair, laughing like the world wasn't heavy. Riley watched the droplets slide down Noah's cheek, watched how unafraid he seemed to be seen, really seen. Riley wasn't like that. He was careful, guarded, always calculating. Noah wasn't. And somehow Noah chose him. He chose to sit next to Riley every day, chose to text him first, chose to show up at Riley's door one night when Riley hadn't answered his phone for hours. "You don't get to disappear on me," Noah had said. Breathless and worried. No one had ever chased after Riley before. That night, sitting on the edge of his bed, Riley noticed the way Noah's voice softened when he talked about his mother, the way his hands fidgeted when he was nervous, the way he looked directly at Riley when he said, "You matter, you know." The words settled somewhere deep, somewhere dangerous. Riley tried to ignore it. He told himself it was attachment, habit, dependency. He didn't believe in love, not the kind that left you vulnerable, exposed. But then came the night of the festival. The lights were strung up above them like scattered stars. Music pulsed in the distance. Noah grabbed Riley's wrist and dragged him through the crowd, laughing, fearless as always. "Live a little," Noah shouted. Riley watched him, really watched him, and something inside his chest gave way. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't fireworks, it was quiet and steady and reliable. It was the realization that Noah's happiness mattered more than his own pride. That was when Noah smiled at someone else. Riley felt a twist of jealousy sharp enough to surprise him. That was when Noah looked at him, just him. Riley felt chosen. Later, when the night settled and the noise faded, they sat on the hood of Riley's car. Noah's shoulder brushed against his. "You're starring again," Noah teased softly. Riley didn't look away this time. "I know," he said. And in that moment, with Noah's warmth pressed against him and the air humming with unspoken things, Riley understood. He wasn't falling. He had already fallen. And for the first time in his life, he didn't want a brace for impact. 9 months after their first date, Riley still remembered exactly how Noah had looked that night, nervous smile, hands shoved into his hoodie pocket, pretending he wasn't shaking. Now they were sitting on the floor of Riley's bedroom, backs against the bed, takeout cartons scattered between them. The room was dim except for the lamp in the corner, comfortable, familiar. Safe. Noah was talking about something, Talia's new charity event, a joke one of his peers had made, but Riley wasn't really hearing him. He was watching the way Noah's mouth moved, the way his hands animated every story, the way he leaned closer without thinking, like gravity pulled him in Riley's direction automatically. 1 year together. It felt longer, it felt deeper. Riley's chest had been tight all week, the question pressing against his ribs like it wanted out. He'd never asked it before, never needed to. What they had was obvious, wasn't it? But obvious didn't always mean permanent. "Noah," Riley interrupted quietly. Noah stopped mid-sentence. "Yeah." Riley swallowed. For someone who prided himself on being composed, this felt reckless, vulnerable. He picked at the edge of the takeout lid instead of meeting Noah's eyes. "Can I ask you something without you joking about it?" Noah's expression softened immediately. "I only joke when I'm scared," he admitted with a half-smile. "But yeah, ask." Riley finally looked at him. The words felt heavier than he expected. "Do you love me?" The room went completely still. Noah didn't laugh, didn't deflect. His eyes widened just slightly, like the question had caught him off guard, but not in a bad way. "You mean, like," Noah started then stopped. He searched Riley's face carefully. "Are you asking if I care about you or if I'm in love with you?" Riley's pulse jumped. In love. There it was, out in the open, no armor. Noah exhaled slowly, like he'd been holding that breath for months. "Riley," he said, shifting closer so their knees touched each other, "I think I've loved you for a little while now." Riley's breath hitched. "I didn't know what to call it at first," Noah continued, voice steady but soft. "I just knew that when something good happened, you were the first person I wanted to tell, and when something bad happened, you were the only person I wanted near me." He reached for Riley's hand. "And every time I leave your place, I already miss you before I'm out the door." Riley stared at their joined hands. "You didn't answer my question," he whispered. Noah smiled, gentle, sure. "Yes, I love you, I'm in love with you." The tightness in Riley's chest finally broke open, replaced with something warm and terrifying and bright. "I was hoping you'd say that," Riley admitted. Noah's eyebrows lifted. "Oh." Riley squeezed his hand. "Because I love you too." This time Noah did laugh, but it wasn't nervous, it was relieved. He leaned forward, pressing his forehead to Riley's. "Took you long enough to ask," Noah teased softly. Riley smiled against his skin. "Yeah," he murmured, "but I needed to hear it." Noah and Riley were parked outside Noah's place, engine off, windows cracked just enough to let the night air drift in. The streetlight above them flickered faintly, washing the inside of the car in gold. Riley had been quiet the whole drive. No one noticed. "You're thinking too loud," Noah said gently, turning in his seat. "What's going on in that head of yours?" Riley kept his eyes forward for a moment longer. His fingers tapped against the steering wheel once, twice, then stilled. "Can I ask you something?" he said. Noah smiled. "You usually just do." "Not this time." That made Noah sit up straighter. The teasing expression faded into something attentive, careful. "Okay." Riley swallowed. He hated this feeling, like stepping off solid ground without knowing how far the drop was. "I love you, Noah." Noah blinked, surprised, not because he was shocked but because Riley had admitted to it. Noah reached across the console and took Riley's hand. "I love you more." Riley finally looked at him, really looked at him, searching for cracks, for doubt, for anything that felt uncertain. He didn't find any. You don't sound surprised, Riley murmured. Noah said with a small smile. I've loved you for a while now, you're the one who acts like saying it out loud might set something on fire. Riley huffed a faint breath that might have been a laugh. I just needed to hear it, he admitted. Noah squeezed his hand. Then I'll say it again. He leaned closer, voice warm and sure. I love you, Riley. The tension in Riley's shoulders eased just slightly. They were stretched across Riley's bed, music playing low from his phone, the late afternoon sun slipping through the blinds in thin golden lines. Noah was on his back, hands folded behind his head, looking peaceful in a way Riley both loved and didn't trust. Have you ever been in love? Riley asked. Noah turned his head slowly. That's random. Answer it. Noah studied him for a second like he was trying to figure out what Riley was really asking. Jealousy, curiosity, a test. Yeah, Noah said finally. I was a small child and had an immature infatuation for a few years until I grew out of it. Riley's stomach tightened despite himself. With whom? Noah stared at the ceiling again, the peaceful look fading into something quieter, older. His name was Tate, he said. The name landed heavily in the room. Tate, Riley repeated. We grew up together, Noah explained. Same bus stop, same family, same everything. A small smile touched his mouth, but it wasn't bright, it was nostalgic. He was some might call us buddies, we used to be until he got married to his current wife in 1994. They were sitting on the living room floor this time, backs against the couch, the TV on mute. Riley hadn't brought Tate up again, but the name had been sitting between them ever since. Noah finally broke the silence. There's more to it, he said quietly. Riley glanced at him, to you loving him. Noah nodded once, yeah. He rubbed his hands together, a nervous habit Riley was starting to recognize. Tate's complicated. That's one way to put it, Riley replied carefully. Noah exhaled. He has BPD, borderline personality disorder. It wasn't diagnosed when we were kids, but looking back it explains a lot. His eyes stayed on the carpet as he spoke. The highs were intense, like we were the only two people in the world, and the lows were just as intense. He'd pull away, shut down, or cling so tight it felt like we were drowning. Riley listened, tension creeping into his shoulders. I didn't understand it back then, Noah continued. I just thought I wasn't enough to keep him steady. And the secrets? Riley asked. Noah's mouth tightened. Tate grew up in a school where being anything but straight wasn't an option, he said. His dad was very clear about that. He paused. We never labeled what we were, we never said it out loud. It was easier that way, safer. Riley's voice softened. But you knew. I knew, Noah said, at least about myself. He swallowed. But Tate didn't. Riley frowned. What do you mean? Noah finally looked at him. Tate doesn't know I'm gay. The words hung heavy. Riley blinked. You were in love with him. I thought I was until recently. I realized it was all in my head and he never felt that way. I've moved on and met you, which I'm so glad I did. You think he loved you? Probably as platonic buddies. Noah shook his head slowly. We never talked about it like that. It was always framed as best friends, too close, too intense, but never that. He let out a humorless laugh. Denial is powerful when it keeps your world intact. And then he got married, Riley said. Noah nodded again, to Chloe. The name felt sharp. It happened fast, Noah added. He met her, things got serious, and before I knew it there was an engagement, a wedding. His voice didn't break, but it thinned. I was invited. Riley's eyes widened. You went. No, Noah stared ahead. I'm never going to survive the life he chose. Silence settled. Did he marry her because of you? Riley asked carefully. Because of what you two had. Noah thought about that. I think he married her because it was easier, he said. Because it fit, because it didn't require him to face himself. His social environment pushed him to be a family man and Tate couldn't say no. Riley shifted closer without thinking. And you, he asked softly, are you still keeping secrets? Noah met his gaze. He reached for Riley's hand. Riley searched his face for hesitation, for lingering loyalty. He found none. The TV continued flickering silently in the background, but neither of them looked away from each other. They were sitting on the edge of Riley's bed when Noah finally said it out loud. I wasted 10 years, he murmured, staring at his hands. After I became an adult, just waiting for him to choose us, waiting for him to come back after that stupid misunderstanding, and he never did. Riley didn't interrupt. Noah's jaw tightened. He abandoned our friendship like it meant nothing, and after his wedding, we barely talked. It was like I didn't exist anymore. 1 month before he married her, Tate abandoned me without a word, leaving me to move in with Chloe. It hurt, but I forgave and moved on a while later. Riley moved closer but didn't touch him yet. He knew Noah needed space to finish the thought. I kept thinking, Noah continued, voice low, if I just stayed steady, if I didn't push, if I proved I was still there, maybe one day he'd realize, maybe he'd choose me. He laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. And now, I think my life is better with him rarely here. That was the part that hurt the most to admit. Riley reached for his hand. Noah, he said gently, you didn't waste 10 years. Noah shook his head, it feels like I did. You loved someone who couldn't meet you where you were, Riley replied. That's not a waste, that's being human. Noah's eyes flicked up, but I stayed even when he didn't. Because you're loyal, Riley said, because what you had mattered to you, because you believed in it. Noah swallowed. Riley squeezed his fingers. But he made a choice, Riley continued, and it wasn't you, not the way you needed. Silence settled between them. I think, Noah admitted quietly, I was grieving a version of him that didn't exist anymore. Maybe it never did. Riley nodded slowly. The version who would fight for you, the version who wouldn't let a misunderstanding end everything. Yeah. And now, Riley asked. Noah looked at him, really looked at him. Now I don't feel that constant ache when he's not around, Noah said. I don't feel like I'm waiting for a text that's never coming, it's quieter. Riley brushed his thumb across Noah's knuckles. Quieter can be good, he said. Noah's voice softened. Do you think I'm a bad person for feeling relieved? Riley shook his head immediately. No, I think you're finally letting go of something that was hurting you. Noah's eyes shimmered slightly, but he didn't look away. I kept thinking if I just loved him hard enough he'd come back, he whispered. You shouldn't have to earn someone staying, Riley replied. If someone wants you in their life, they don't disappear over a misunderstanding. Noah let that sink in. My life feels bigger without him, he said slowly, like I can breathe. Riley leaned forward, resting his forehead against Noah's. Then maybe that's your answer, he murmured. Maybe the chapter with him taught you what love isn't supposed to feel like. Noah closed his eyes. And what is it supposed to feel like, he asked softly. Riley didn't hesitate. Chosen, he said. Noah's grip tightened around his hand. For the first time in years, he wasn't waiting for someone to turn around. He was already moving forward. Noah leaned back against Riley's couch, taking a deep breath like he was unpacking years of thought in one exhale. The afternoon sunlight spilled across his face, softening the tension in his jaw. I wanted more from him, Noah began quietly, voice barely above the hum of the city outside. I really did, but he's straight and married now. I can't and shouldn't expect anything else. Riley nodded slowly, listening, letting the pause stretch between them. So, Noah continued, I moved on. Mark, my gay mentor, helped. He hesitated. Mark's bi but queer like me, and, well, we became friends first. Close friends, friends who got each other. Friends who weren't afraid to talk about everything, jealousy, desire, boundaries, confet, all the messy stuff most people don't even admit exists. Riley's brow lifted slightly. Confet. Noah smiled faintly, a little embarrassed. Mark says it forces conformity or compulsory heterosexuality, which pushes boys like Tate to embrace straight life. I've had such complicated feelings about Tate for decades. It's a relief to finally bury the hatchet. When you love or care about someone but it's not exclusive, or maybe it's someone else you're into too, or feelings that exist outside the usual box. Mark and I, being honest about it, helped each other understand what that meant, what we wanted, what we were okay with. And, Riley prompted softly, sensing Noah's pause. And we chased what we actually want in relationships, Noah said. Not what we imagined could happen with someone unavailable, not what we wished we could fix or reclaim. We learned to ask for what we need, to say yes or no without shame, to really see the other person and still be seen ourselves. It's messy, but it's real. Riley exhaled slowly, sounds freeing. Sometimes, Noah admitted, shaking his head with a small grin, it's terrifying, but it's worth it. Because I'm not waiting for someone else to choose me or hoping they'll change, I'm choosing me, and Mark, he makes that easier because he understands. Riley's hand found Noah's and he squeezed it. I'm glad you found that, someone you can be honest with, someone who helps you understand yourself. Noah looked at him, really looked, and a small laugh escaped. Yeah, it's not perfect, we still bicker, still get jealous sometimes, but it's ours, and I think, maybe this is what I needed all along, to stop orbiting someone else's life and finally live my own. Riley nodded, feeling the weight of Noah's words settle like warm light around them. Sounds like you learned a lot, he said softly. I did, Noah agreed, and now, I just want to keep learning, with people who actually want to be there with me, not ghosts from the past. Tate and I bump into each other a few times a year at family events and we're still friends, just nothing like we were during our younger days. Riley smiled, then I think you're doing exactly what you're supposed to. Noah leaned back, letting the sunlight wash over him, and for the first time in a long time he felt like he could breathe without waiting. Noah leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped together. His voice was steady, but there was a fierceness beneath it, a kind of clarity Riley had rarely seen. I want a guy who doesn't keep me guessing, Noah said, meeting Riley's eyes. Someone who focuses his attention on me, someone who actually pursues us not just when it's convenient, not just when it suits him, someone who loves me fully without games or half-truths. Riley stayed quiet, letting him. I spent years with Tate thinking hopping that what we had meant more than it did, Noah continued. He breadcrumbed me for years, always just enough attention to keep me on edge to make me think we were friends, or something more, but it was never enough. I.e. ran a hand through his hair, shaking his head slightly. I tolerated those half-truths because I wanted him to see me. I wanted him to choose me, but he never did, not in the way I deserved. He straightened, the weight of years folding out of his shoulders in that moment. I'm done with toxic people, I'm done with unhealthy dynamics. I'm done with chasing someone who won't meet me halfway, or all the way. Riley reached out and laid a hand over Noah's. You deserve better, he said simply. Noah's lips quirked into a small, grateful smile. Yeah, I do, and I won't settle for less anymore. I'm done waiting for someone to notice me, to treat me like I matter. I'll be with someone who actually chooses me, who actually shows up, who actually loves me. He squeezed Riley's hand, and that feels worth more than anything I thought I wanted before. Riley nodded slowly, letting the weight of Noah's words sink in. For the first time in a long time, Noah sounded like he wasn't carrying the ghosts of the past, he was standing on the edge of something new, ready to claim it. Noah's voice was quiet but firm, carrying a weight that made Riley sit up and really listen. I feel safe with you, he said, his eyes locking on Riley's. Like, I'm comfortable, like I can breathe, like I'm actually thriving when I'm around you. Riley felt a warmth spread through his chest. He knew that look, the one that said Noah wasn't just speaking, he was trusting. Over the next year, Riley and Noah spent time together.